Hello, Bravo bosses, and welcome to the Bravo Investigator Podcast with me, your host, Dana. Today on our Monday Reality Roundup, we are talking about Love Island, Teen Mom, The Real Housewives of Rhode Island, The Real Housewives of Potomac, The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, The Real Housewives of Atlanta, and The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Let's get into it. Happy Monday, everyone. I hope everyone had a great week and weekend, and I hope everyone caught last week's episodes. So last week on Monday, instead of our regular reality roundup, I did a new episode of Be True Hollywood Story, and it was about Nia Sanchez from the Valley. So if you weren't able to catch that, go and listen to it on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And then this past Saturday, I did an episode covering the Summer House Reunion Part 2, in addition to just like a deep dive of Season 9 in general, just because, I had a lot of thoughts. And I am still going to do the Valley. I just had sort of like a moral dilemma with last week's episode for a variety of reasons. So I will get that to you this week. I'll probably double up on the Valley as well as the after show because Summer House is over and it's like summer should be fun and it's just starting for us, but just ending in terms of TV, but crazy to think that they're actually like starting to film again in a few weeks. And if you want to hear my thoughts on all of the tea with Lexi leaving Summer House and with Paige leaving Summer House and with that weird like parody account posting that Carl is leaving Summer House, go back again, listen on Saturday to my episode and you can get that, like I said, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. But I just want to remind people that, if you don't see me on Monday, because Monday episodes are always on YouTube, on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel, it might mean that I have released a re-release episode or I did an audio-only episode, but always go and check. And I get that there's people who are like mostly just YouTube people that really love to watch the show on YouTube as opposed to listening to it. But in case you just want to know where I am or what's going on, I always post something. So if I don't have a new episode coming out and I'm doing a rewind or, whatever's going on, I will post like an audio something, whether it be an older episode, but there'll be a description which will explain where I am and what's going on, just in case, you miss me and you're wondering where I am. So definitely go and check those episodes out. But yeah, this has been a crazy busy week in Bravo / other things. And I don't think this episode will be too long, even though I always say that, and it always is. Not because we don't have a lot of news, but because it's not a lot of like meaty news. It's just a lot of things. We have a lot of tea, a lot of little bits of tea. And I don't know, it's just sort of a crazy week. We had like Bethany and Stassi doing the Sports Illustrated swimsuit show last week, which was amazing. Stassi looked amazing. Bethany looked amazing. Lexi was there as well for a brand. Brittany was there for Cup She. So it was just so amazing to see our ladies like do the damn thing. We had Next Gen come out last week, which is sort of that spin-off of like the Bravo Kids show with Gia Giudice. And I did watch it. I'll be honest, I did not really pay attention. So I haven't decided if I like it. And I didn't really think I was going to watch it. I really didn't think it was just like going to be my cup of tea. But you know what? Like, I'm going to watch everything. Like, let's be honest. And we had Love Island come out this week, which has been so exciting. Love Island USA, hosted by the one and only Ariana Madix. What else did we have this week? We heard that the Valley is doing amazing after we heard that they weren't, because there was a lot of weird things coming out saying that it's like the worst ratings they've ever had, but that's just not true. That's not what ended up coming out. We heard that they're doing amazing and that Bravo is killing it on all cylinders, being the Valley and Summer House. And Tom Girardi was sentenced to 7 years in prison. So lots of stuff going on in Bravo, but we might as well get into our news, our tea, our everything. And let's just start with Love Island, which yes, I am watching and I haven't decided what I'm going to do with you guys yet. Like I haven't decided if I'm going to recap it. It's on every night. Oh, by the way, I just love that it's on every night. I love getting into a new show. That's just, there's more and more and more of it, right? Like I love to binge watch something, but hate when it's over. And I hate to watch something week to week because it feels like it's not enough. So this is kind of like the perfect balance. That being said, it's on at 9 o'clock and I go to bed at 9. So I'll always be like a day behind. But yeah, I want to recap it for you guys. I'm just not really sure how I'm going to do that, but it's okay so far. Like I'm the kind of person that doesn't like change. And obviously there's a new cast each season. That's how it works. But I haven't really gotten too into the characters yet, and they're very young. Like it's crazy. Like there was a couple who are on a date where they're talking about like jamming out to 90s and 2000s music as oldies and referring to like old school Katy Perry as oldies. So yeah, they're young. It's definitely like a very different vibe. Um, and I like Shelly. I think she's really cool. There's Hurrdat, who is a mom. She has a 4-year-old. Now, Huda's sort of interesting. Like, initially, I liked her, but, she tells the girls that she has a child, but then doesn't want to tell the guys because she wants to be the one to tell them. But at the same time, it's like, you can't really hold on to that for too long in this environment. And also, people who will be coming in periodically, right? Like bombshells or new people will be watching on the back end. So they obviously already know, but I get that. Like, you don't want to tell a guy that you're interested in, like, the minute that you meet him that you have a kid. But she ends up coupling up with this guy, Jeremiah, and she's like in it within like 2 minutes. She's calling them mom and dad. And when she finally tells him that she has a kid, like his reaction wasn't good. I have to be honest. Like it didn't seem great. He's like, "Wait, you're only 24." And she's like, "Yeah." So I don't know what'll happen there, but yeah, she's already trying to like make him her husband within 5 minutes. They played some crazy games like your body count. Like I actually can't believe they played this game. And you guys know I hate the word body count. It sounds like the number of people like you've murdered, but like I can't imagine having to out the number of people I've had sex with on national television. But it was pretty wild because there were two guys who have over 100. And like, I'm no sex shamer, obviously, but I'm just like, holy shit. Like, one guy's like, well, I'm 27. Yeah, you're 27, right? Like, how have you had sex with over 100 people? I just, ew, I don't know. So there's that. But like there was one girl who left, I think like the first day. I don't even remember her. Her name is Yulissa Escobar. And there's already been news coming out about her that she is a racist and MAGA and that she was on a podcast screaming the N-word like every other word. So thank God she's gone already and we haven't had to deal with her racist ass. But she did come out with a statement saying, "First, I want to apologize for using a word I had no right in using. Podcast clips from years ago have recently resurfaced and I want to address it directly. In those clips, I used a word I never should have used, a racial slur. I used it ignorantly, not fully understanding the weight, history, or pain behind it. I wasn't trying to be offensive or harmful." You what? You weren't trying to be okay. But I recognize now the intention doesn't excuse impact, and the impact of that word is real. It's tied to generations of trauma, and it's not mine to use. At the time, I was speaking casually in conversation, not thinking deeply or critically about what I was saying, but that doesn't take away from how wrong it was. The truth is, I didn't know better then, but I do now. I've taken the time to reflect, to learn, and to grow from that moment. Okay, well, bye, girl. Like, I'm fine saying goodbye to you. You know, there's these always come out when it comes to Love Island. There was that girl Hannah last year who like got insanely drunk and then like got in a fight with a police officer and was screaming racial obscenities. She's recently come out saying that she's been sober for a while, so good for her. But like, if you ever want to be in the public eye, make sure you're not like, I don't know, being racist on public platforms. It's just something to think about. All right, so there's going to be new episodes every night. I'm really excited. I hope there's lots of cool news and tea that I'll be able to bring you for Love Island every week. And yeah, I'll figure out the whole recap thing later. But let's move on to Teen Mom because there's actually so much stuff coming out of Teen Mom this week. So this is wild. So a long time ago, I had heard that Kailyn Lowry and her boyfriend Elijah, that there was trouble between them. So you guys will remember Kailyn Lowry from Teen Mom 2, I believe she's Teen Mom 2. She hasn't been on the show in a number of years. She got pregnant when she was 16 with her son Isaac. She was with her boyfriend then, Joe Rivera. They are no longer together. He is now married to his wife V, and they have another daughter together, Vivi. They share custody with Kailyn, and Kailyn then got married later on to a guy named Javi. They had a child together. Then she started dating a guy named Chris Lopez. They have 2 kids together. And after that is when she started dating Elijah. So we don't know much about Elijah as like TV watchers or fans because Kailyn just started dating him at the tail end of her time on Teen Mom, which was pretty contentious for a period of time. She had a lot of strife with Brianna, if you will remember, but she still is sort of one of my favorite teen moms, and she has built quite an extensive empire. She has like 3 podcasts, which are all top 200 podcasts. She has her own podcast network, the Killer Podcast Network. So she really is doing amazing in that regard. And she really has, shown what a teen mom can do. And she did actually end up getting her degree. Like it took her many, many years to do, but she fucking did it. So, anyways, back to Elijah. All I know about Elijah is that he's significantly younger from Kailyn. I believe he lived on the same street as her, and I think he was also an army vet. So they get together at some point, and she ends up spitting out three kids with this guy, totaling seven kids now. And she kept those last three a little bit private in terms of their birth, probably because she knew what the public outcry would be with her having this many baby daddies. But I've heard him on podcast episodes because they've done one recently where Javi was on, and Elijah seemed like a really, stand-up guy. It seems like the kids really liked him. But then there was like this whole thing called Elijah Cruise 2024. It's like an actual hashtag. So there was this girl who came out saying that she met Elijah on a cruise and that stuff happened between them, but her proof wasn't that great. And that's why I never brought it up to you guys, because it was just a rumor. It didn't really pick up that much traction. I mean, it really seemed like Kailyn and Elijah were shutting it down. They were posting pictures together and TikToks and stuff. But then what I heard later on, apparently, like she did kick him out way back when this girl was coming out with this Elijah Cruz tea and stuff, and that they came back together just to take this TikTok just to confuse the public. So apparently, Kailyn is dating a full on new guy. She is no longer with Elijah. And it's just kind of wild because Javi just had this insane response because apparently Kailyn brought this new guy to one of their kids' soccer games. And Javi is livid because he's just like, how can you bring this random guy to one of your kids' games? Like, aren't you embarrassed? So I'm going to play this clip for you guys because it's wild. I love when Javi goes off. Like, I hate Javi, don't get me wrong. I used to really like him, but he's a cheater and not a great guy. I mean, he's married now to his wife, Lauren, after cheating on her a million bajillion times. But here's what he had to say about Kailyn bringing this new guy to the soccer game.
So that is why anybody who talks to her, who ever had a relationship with her, I cut off immediately. I don't have to tell you. I don't have to. There was an old gym buddy who started working with her, started doing podcasts with her, unfriended. Don't want to see your content. Don't want you to see my content. Don't want none of that. Because these people in her circle enable her. I'd be so embarrassed. How anyone at soccer, how she could even show her face at soccer like that 40 minutes late with someone else. I've come to find out this person has been around since April, allegedly. Allegedly. No, all her friends are enablers. All her friends are enablers. Yeah, they fall for a super podcast. All she does is post lies. All she does is talk about lies. Everything is calculated. With this type of person, everything she does and posts is calculated. She wants you guys to think she's around all the kids. She wants you guys to think this and that. I have documented how many times she isn't and how many times I correct her. Why are you not giving him to me when you are not in town? I am mind blown. Why is this person's dad watching him when I am in town? Yeah, I did her podcast because she was with Elijah then. Things were different. He messed up. That's not my business. That's not my part to get involved with. He messed up. Yes. Things are different now that Elijah is not there and she is a single person having to do everything. So after this live, she's going to post tons of pictures and videos of her running around town, old content, new content. She's going to make it known that she is running around town, taking care of everyone. And how does she do it as a 7? She doesn't. She has help. For some weird reason, she prioritizes. She doesn't really care about I don't even want to get in trouble with lawsuit wise because that's coming too. That's next. I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble, but I'm sick of it. I'm honestly sick of it. My son deserves to be with me during the school year and go with point blank period. See, people like envy Erica. She's not allowed to move on. That is what's wrong with the world. Envy Erica. Can I pin her? How do I pin her comment? This is what's wrong with. How do I pin this? Pin and comment. That is what's wrong. That is what's wrong with people. She is enabled. People like that. People like that follow her. That is that.
Okay, I'm done with that. I mean, listen, I'm not slut shaming her whatsoever, of course. Go be with whoever you want. But it is weird to bring a new guy around like your other kids to a soccer game with not even mentioning it to your other baby daddy who is going to be there. And especially if, yeah, if there's going to be like a new man in the lives of children that you have with other guys, you should be talking to those guys about it. It is also just sort of weird for her to, because she is a public figure, to start bringing around new men so soon, because we didn't really know that her and Elijah had broken up until very recently. So it's just like, sort of like, oh, whoa, jump scare. There's like this new guy. Now, apparently his name is Isaac, of all things, which is what Kailyn's son's name is, but he has actually recently decided to go by Elliot, and we will get into that in a little bit. But this does go on because, as Javi says, Kailyn will fight it like she always does. So Kailyn ended up posting, I would like to add that Lux was at practice. I was late because I was working, not hanging out. And then over the weekend, I wasn't partying. I was there for Elliot's first Pride and filmed his episode. So by Elliot, again, she means her first born son, Isaac. Link wants to be with his BFF since he was a toddler because he won't see him for 3 months while he's with Javi for the summer. Or what does it say? Pop Pop. Pop Pop. Pop Pop's been around for 8+ years. I just haven't talked about him much. And it's just like, who the fuck is Pop Pop? So then Chris Lopez, who actually has 2 kids with Kailyn, came out with his own statement because then he clarifies who Pop Pop is. Because I'm like, yeah, wait, is Kailyn just expecting us to know who Pop Pop is? So he writes a story that says, this whole Pop Pop thing is starting to piss me off. Stop forcing children to call a man Pop Pop because you creeped around with his son on the low. Motherfucker's only been around as the repairman since the Middletown home, which was when my son Creed, who was only about to turn 5, was born. Weirdos, man, I swear, I'm trying to my best just to let everything be said, but it's annoying when you're straight up a liar. Would rather profit off children and create more lies than address the truth that's been put out there. So he's the repairman, and she makes it sound like, okay, he's been around for many, many years as the repairman. I don't really know. I mean, this is just really confusing. And then Kailyn posted a tweet that said, in terms of Javi, so I guess this is her response to Javi going live about her. Her response is, he also didn't show up to Link's game today. Should I go live? But what she didn't realize was he was there and that he always takes photos and proof. So he actually posted photos where he wrote, had ourselves a day, got to watch the big dog at 8 a.m. for his first game, 2 hours away. Yikes. Then my wife decided, let's go to Hershey in between games since we had like 6 hours to kill. I was trying to go to the mall, lol. So we had a great few hours at Hershey, but then a downpour took us out and we had to skip out on the second game because sis can't hang in the rain. So TM Chatter, who had actually posted this, wrote, yes, Kailyn Lowry, please go live to deflect what Javi Mariquin said about you in his live and say he did not show up for Lincoln's game today since he posted a recap of his day that shows that he was there but couldn't make game 2 due to his little one and the weather. That's what happens when you actually include your babies in your outings. Embarrassing. So I don't know what to make of all of that. Like, it's so funny how Kailyn frequently gets so upset about how people perceive her in the media, which I understand. You are a public figure, and I do understand the inclination to always sort of denounce the things that are said about you if they're not true, but when they are true, it's just sort of difficult. But in some more beautiful, amazing news that does come from Kailyn, her son Isaac, who is now going by Elliot, has recently come out as gay. So he came out on her podcast and he told this whole story. And I just thought it was really beautiful and really amazing. And especially with him now wanting to go by a different name, a part of that has to do with him trying to separate the persona that people know him from Teen Mom, from like his new persona. But the crazy part is, I mean, Kailyn said, and Isaac said that they did have plans to do this episode in advance, but apparently Isaac went to prom with another young boy and there was pictures taken and they were on like a private Facebook page and then those ended up being leaked online. And so what Kailyn was explaining to Isaac as her son, like, Even when we expect things to be private or we want things to be private, they just won't always be. And unfortunately, that's just the lives that they live being public figures, which is insane. And I don't even blame Kailyn or any of these teen moms for that, because who knew that their fame would rise to what it has and would lead to their own children sometimes feeling like mobbed by people in public in order to take pictures and stuff, right? Like, that was just probably something that they never really anticipated. So it's really sad and crazy to think that Elliot now cannot have a life where he has much privacy because he is by virtue a public figure because of his mom. So it's really sad that he had to come out when he wasn't necessarily ready. I think it's interesting though that he was deciding to do this episode because I believe that the main reason that Kailyn and V is Joe's wife, no longer do their podcast together, which was called Baby Mama More Drama or Baby Mama No Drama. Maybe Mama No Drama, I think, or maybe More Drama. I really don't know. But they did this podcast together for years. And my understanding is that there was an issue between Joe and Kailyn because Kailyn did a podcast episode, not where she outed Elliot, but where she implied that he was gay. So apparently, this is not something that Joe wanted out there in the public sphere. So that ended the relationship basically between V and Kailyn, and they could no longer do a podcast together. So obviously Elliot is his own person and he can come out if he wants to. I'm just very curious what Joe's perception is on this now that he has decided to do this in such a public way. I hope that he's supportive. I hope that no matter what, he's supportive of his son. He should be able to tell his truth to whoever he wants to. So that's amazing for Elliot, and I fully support his name change. And, you know, happy Pride. Okay, so in a little more Teen Mom news, let's talk about Janelle Evans. So, Janelle Evans, if you're a Teen Mom historian, you know Janelle Evans. Janelle Evans got pregnant when she was a teenager with her son Jace, and her mom Barbara, ended up taking over custody of Jace because Janelle was just not a fit mother at the time. She was young, she was on drugs, she wasn't working, and she could barely take care of herself. And then in the years that followed, Janelle wanted custody of her son back, and this was a big battle that she fought her mother Barbara on. And then a few years back, she did end up eventually getting custody of Jace, or maybe not that long ago, maybe it was more recently. So only a few weeks back, I let you guys know that Janelle announced on Instagram that her son Jace is now living with his father Andrew in Florida. So again, you Teen Mom historians know that Jace has no prior relationship with his father Andrew. Andrew was barely in the show to begin with. Janelle was a teen mom from the jump. Andrew has never shown an interest in Jace. They've never had a relationship. But Janelle is saying that her son has ODD, this kind of like defiant disorder, and she absolutely cannot take care of him anymore. She's done absolutely everything that she can do, and so she has to send him to live with his father, Andrew, in Florida, which people thought was insane, and everyone knew it wasn't going to work. So here's what actually ended up coming out online this week. Jace was with his dad in Florida for the first week, and then they drove up to North Carolina together. But once there and reunited with his friends, he didn't want to leave, an insider said. The source said once he was back in his home state, Jace stayed in the home Janelle owns with friends at his grandmother Barbara Evans' place as well. Ultimately, however, it just wasn't working out, the insider said, adding that Janelle had the teen come back to Las Vegas where she's living in a rental with her younger children, Kaiser 10 and Ensley 8. So, yeah, of course it didn't work out, Janelle. Like, that just seemed very obvious. And, Janelle was planning her divorce party, which was on May 30th. So that was a big priority for her in recent weeks. I also believe Kesha has come out with new music. So I think that's been important to her as well. So I don't know. I wish all the best for Jace. And it's good to hear that Barbara is involved somehow, because that's the part where I was sort of getting worried and concerned, because Barbara has always been at least a fallback in terms of someone that Jace can turn to. So I just thought it odd that we hadn't heard from her at all in terms of this ODD or in terms of Jace's custody. So it's good to know that she is still someone that's in his life. All right, and then in some final Teen Mom news, let's talk about Corey Wharton and Taylor Selfridge. So Corey Wharton's history with Teen Mom is that he used to be with Cheyenne, who has the daughter Ryder. And Cheyenne isn't a teen mom in the sense that she didn't have her child Ryder when she was a teenager. She actually had her at 23, but they decided to cast her regardless. And I like Cheyenne. I think she's good for the show. And so she and Corey met on The Challenge, which is just like another MTV show. And she gets pregnant by Corey, and she actually wasn't sure that Corey was the father right off the bat, but Corey was. And Corey has moved on with somebody else named Taylor, and Cheyenne has moved on with somebody else named Zach, who she's married to. And they're both happy. They both have kids on opposite sides, but, they are amazing co parents. They have their strife like here and there, but for the most part, I really, really admire their co parenting. Aside from the fact of when like Corey has to leave to do the challenge like every single year. It seems like every time he's invited to do it, he wants to go do it, which I understand. Like, you want to make money, but he has several children with Taylor as well, and one of them had severe health issues, their little one Mia or Mila. So, they've really gone through it as well. But we heard recently that they might have broken up. He apparently was going on vacation by himself, and then there was word that came out that this house that they bought last year, he left her off the deed. Now, I don't even know how that happened. This was a 1.5 or sorry, $1.7 million LA mansion that they got a year ago. They've been together for 8 years, which is crazy to think about. Like, I can't even believe that he and Cheyenne haven't been together for 8 years. Like, that's just sort of wild for me to think about. And we definitely saw Taylor sort of trying to push Corey towards marriage in the last season. But I never thought that they would break up or that he was cheating on her or that he would do her dirty in any sort of way. So I just thought all of this was really crazy. Also, how do you leave someone off a deed and them not know? Because I feel like this happened to Leah Messer as well with that last guy that she was engaged to. Or maybe that guy gave her like a fake deed. I swear, like there was more detail with that one. But like, how do you leave her off the deed and her not know? Isn't she like, hey, when can I sign the deed? I don't really know. So then, yeah, he goes on vacation alone. He unfollows her. Then he like refollows her and goes on this Twitter rant because people were accusing him of like cheating and there's all this like breakup stuff. So he just goes off saying things like, everybody talking out the ass like you think we tell you what's going on behind closed doors. Nah, you all see what we want you to see, idiots. Keep comments, dumbass shit you know nothing about. I got time today, so if you really want to know what's going on, stay locked in. And if you want to see me fail, fuck yeah. Then he said, it's easy to comment on somebody's issues when y'all need to look in the mirror. Really about to crash out on some of y'all who need ya ass whooped, sit behind a computer and prey on people on weak moments instead of having compassion and an understanding. We are human too. Like I've been saying, you don't give a fuck about what's going on. You just want to see me fail. And no, I didn't cheat, dumbass. We were going through shit way before this trip, idiots. Y'all love to see people fail because your life is miserable. Stay on the sidelines with that bullshit. Kids are invalid, and yeah, don't give a fuck about that. Just put a ring on it to fix all the problems. Fuck out of here. So yeah, that was quite the rant, if there ever is one for sure. And then like literally a week ago, he posts like a series of photos over the month of May, just like the things he did over the month of May. And the final photo is like a bunch of handprints in the sand of like all the members of his family. So it says like Mila, Corey, Taylor, like the other kids, whatever. And so I don't know if that's his way of showing that they're back together. I really don't know, but like I was really sad to hear this. I thought they were such a beautiful couple, had such an amazing family. I thought, even all the trials and tribulations that they've been through with their daughter's health, while also having Ryder and having to co-parent Ryder, and Ryder herself also has health issues, and then being able to balance and figure things out when Corey would go away to do the challenge. I just, I thought these were like a really strong couple who and two families who worked really well together. And that doesn't mean the co-parenting stops, obviously. If anything, it just continues. But I don't know. I was just really sad to hear this. And if they're meant to get back together, I hope they do. But if he's a dick and he cheated on her and left her off the deed and treated her like shit for years, then like, yeah, goodbye, good riddance. But it just, yeah, I guess it always just shows you never really know what's going on behind the scenes, as Corey said. Okay, let's get into some Bravo news, and let's start with the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. And yes, you heard me right. We've been discussing for a little while that there are going to be a lot of new Bravo shows coming out, and one of which will be The Real Housewives of Rhode Island. So Andy Cohen has come out and said that there's going to be a whole new slew of Italian ladies who just have these amazing personalities. So I'm really excited for it, but I wonder what that means for the Real Housewives of New Jersey, because if it's like a whole bunch of Italian ladies, like, is it going to be like the exact same thing as New Jersey? Are we still going to have New Jersey? Are we going to need New Jersey? And like all we've heard about New Jersey, even including this past week, is that definitely nothing's happening this year for them. But we did get interesting word that Dolores Catania will be appearing on the franchise as a friend of. And I think that is such amazing news. She said, well, I'm not going to be a star. I will visit maybe. And this was on Sirius XM on Jeff Lewis Live. She was there with Margaret Joseph. But I just think this is a really great idea because I feel like when we bring on new people and new shows, it can be difficult for us to like new people, take on new people, sort of, become invested in new people. And I feel like where we do best as a fandom is where we have a mix of old and new. And so that's why I feel like this could work because if we see a familiar face like Dolores, and it's such a familiar face, it's a face we love, that maybe it'll help us gain entry into enjoying these new women's lives. So if Dolores, let's say, is a friend of Samantha on The Real Housewives of Rhode Island. Listen, I'm just making somebody up. I don't know if they've done their full casting yet. And they have like this sordid history, then that will make me invest a lot more in Samantha's life because Dolores is invested in it. So I think it's a great idea. In fact, I think they should probably bring on a few more people, if anything. I think, like I said, I feel like the best way for us to either bring on new shows or to do recasting is to do it in like these little bits, almost in the way Atlanta's done it, where you have like a healthy mix of old and new. So I'm excited to see Dolores on The Real Housewives of Rhode Island. I do believe I could be making this up. I absolutely could be making this up, but I am going to say it just in case. Maybe they have casted and maybe they have started filming. I feel like I heard someone say that there have been some fans coming out saying that they've been seeing some filming in Rhode Island that looks like housewives activities or behavior. So again, I could be wrong, but if there is filming happening now and we're in June, that means we could have a new housewives show at the beginning of next year. So that could be really exciting. Okay, let's move on to the Real Housewives of Potomac, and we also have some interesting casting news here. So apparently Monique Samuels is coming back to the Real Housewives of Potomac, and they are actually filming right now as of like literally this past weekend. They were filming at Pride and Monique was with them. So Monique has been gone for a few seasons. I can't remember which season she left. And I do remember really enjoying her on the show. I really enjoyed her family. She had a very interesting dynamic. She had three kids, I believe, and her littlest one, the little girl, she was so cute. I don't remember her name, but there was these really cool scenes I'd see between her and Monique's brother, who was a big part of filming. And he was, I don't know, he was a really good like mentor to her, I felt like, to like the little girl. And then Monique's husband, I felt like that relationship was really interesting because, the mother-in-law really hated Monique. She called her a heifer. That was really fucked up. And the husband, who was an ex-football player, he really needed to always be in the spotlight. Like if there was anything that Monique ever had for herself, like even her own birthday party, he would get really jealous and try to ruin it. But regardless, I thought they had like a really, really strong marriage. Well, that's apparently not true because they got divorced recently, I feel like within the last couple of years. So that's definitely something she has to bring to the table. But what I remember happening is that she got in a huge, blowout fight with Candace. And I don't remember what season this was, but it was insane. Like, I remember Candace definitely instigating her and being like, drag me, Monique, drag me, Monique. And then she did, right? But, that's no excuse for violent behavior. And it was so violent. And it was so crazy because Monique never really apologized for it or took real accountability for it. Not to Candace, not at the reunion, not for the show. I remember her actually really, trying to justify the behavior. Like she was actually trying to continue to go back at Candace and like production was having to pull her back. Like I remember how crazy it got that they had to fully break the fourth wall. All of the producers had to jump in and break them apart and really try to keep Monique away from her. But Monique's response, again, like I said, wasn't like, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have caused her any harm. It was like, she came at me and she deserved it. And it's like, you're a mom, though. You know that like violence isn't the answer and that shouldn't be something you should be teaching your children slash saying on TV. And so I just thought for those reasons, we shouldn't really be like promoting someone who can't take any accountability for their behavior, especially if it's really violent behavior. Now, of course, that being said, we have a slew of violent people on Bravo. We've got Jax Taylor, we've got them all, right? And so to say, like, let's not allow people on TV who have, like, hit someone, then we would be losing everyone. We would be losing Stassi, literally everyone. So I guess we can't say that, which is crazy. It's crazy that I can't say if you've hit someone, you can't be on reality TV. That's insane. But I would at least want to hear that person say that they're sorry and that they regret it and that it was the worst thing they've ever done, not continue to sort of build up that it was the right thing to do. That's sort of crazy. So I don't know. What do you guys think of Monique? Do you think that she deserves a place back in Bravo? Are you excited to see her? I just, myself haven't really decided how I feel about that given my memories of that particular incident and her reaction to it after the fact. Okay, so let's move on to The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And again, we have some amazing casting news. So Rachel Zoe will be joining the cast of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and she made a statement saying, I am beyond excited to be returning home to Bravo to join the cast of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I've been living my best new life, and it felt like the perfect time to come back to TV and share it all with you. Here we go, RZ 2.0. So she used to have a show called The Rachel Zoe Project, which aired for 5 seasons from September 2008 to April 2013. And it followed her as a celebrity stylist and fashion designer, as well as her personal life. So that's really interesting. I actually never have seen the Rachel Zoe Project. I know that she's continued to be an influencer and work in the fashion industry. She still does styling and designing, and she has the Zoe Report, which was launched in 2009. But I really don't know much about her, but people seem really, really excited about this. And like, obviously what we do know about her from her show is that she's a huge fashionista. So I think that'll be an interesting dichotomy between her and Dorit, because Dorit feels like that's her thing. Fashion is for her. And so to have someone come in who's just so incredibly knowledgeable when it comes to the fashion game, possibly more so than Dorit, it could cause some contention, who knows? And we know that Beverly Hills needs a little bit of a cash shakeup. We know that we just lost Garcelle. And with that being said, the women that are there aren't really friends. This past season just really didn't give as much as we would have liked. And maybe Rachel Zoe is the answer. Apparently, in regards to her personal life, she recently separated from her husband, Roger Berman, in September 2004 after 26 years of marriage. And they have 2 kids, Skylar, 14, and Chaos, 11. So, that sounds really cool. I wonder if she's friends with Kyle. I wonder who she's friends with on the cast and how she's going to be introduced. Because, you always have to come in as a friend of someone. And I wonder if maybe she has to, or it's different for her because she has sort of her own name in Bravo and her own sort of standing in the community, that maybe she'll sort of come in on her own. I don't really know, but I'm excited to learn more about her and get to know more about her. I might actually go back and watch her old show because, I'm a well-researched person. I like to know everything about everything, but I think this is a great idea. I think when you bring on someone who already knows how Bravo works and how reality TV works, I think you're just going to have an easier transition. And given the fact that she's already been on Bravo, fans seem to really like her, fans seem really excited, it seems like a good fit. And you know us as the fandom, we tend to be really crotchety sometimes and really mad at who Bravo decides is a good fit for us and who they decide to let go of. But it seems, for the most part, like people are really happy and really excited for Bravo's decision. And, I'm just excited too. Okay, let's move on to The Real Housewives of Atlanta. So I actually haven't really been keeping up with The Real Housewives of Atlanta for season 16, and I don't know why. It's a great Bravo show. It used to be one of my faves, and then it sort of fell off. And I know that this season has allegedly been really good, so I got to get back into it. I really do, especially because, there was that whole situation with Kenya and Brit Eady that we've been talking about for a long time, where Kenya showed that poster board picture of Britt doing something sexual apparently to like cast and crew and like a whole room of people during an event that was being filmed. This led to Kenya being fired, and there's been a lot of, back and forth discourse in the fandom pretty much during this entire season of The Real Housewives of Atlanta in terms of what happened between these two and who was right and who was wrong. But we just had the reunion taping this past week, and Kenya was not invited to be there. So she actually posted a tweet that said, "I'm disappointed to not be a part of the Real Housewives of Atlanta 16 reunion taping today. Please know I take full accountability for my actions and deeply apologize to all those affected, including Brittany, the cast, crew, guests, and viewers. I look forward to seeing you all back on Bravo soon." So, it's interesting that they didn't allow her to be there to tell her side of the story. My understanding is that, they conducted an investigation and that they didn't decide to let her go, but that she actually decided to leave. But there's just, again, been so much back and forth. We don't really know. And a lot of people feel like Kenya maybe went too far with what she did because what Britt had done was threaten her with a gun. Some people feel like that threat totally warranted what Kenya did. Some people feel like, she should never have taken something like that seriously. Other people feel like production should have done something about the fact that Britt said that she had guns. I mean, again, there's just been so much back and forth on it. But to not even have Kenya there just sort of sucks, right? Basically, right after that, we find out that Britt was a no-show from the reunion. And we were like, okay, well, why wouldn't she show up to the reunion? And then it's because we find out, because she's suing Bravo. So you guys will not believe this. I'm going to read you guys this article that came out with Us Weekly. So it says, "The Real Housewives of Atlanta star Brit Eady is taking legal action against Bravo. Eady filed a $20 million lawsuit against the network on Thursday, June the 5th for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, false light, I don't know what that is, sexual harassment, hostile work environment, and more following her experience filming season 16, according to court documents obtained by Us Weekly. Despite Eady's repeated requests prior to the airing of the episode to see the photograph in question, the defendants allegedly did not show her. As a result, Eady's lawsuit claims Bravo contributed to a hostile work environment for Eady and sexually harassed Eady by subjecting her to unwelcome, offensive, and sexualized behavior and comments based on her gender. According to Eady's lawsuit, Bravo allegedly knew that the photograph did not depict Eady, or at the very least were reckless or grossly negligent in failing to learn that the photograph did not depict Eady." Holy fucking shit. So do you guys realize what this means? This means that the whole time that this photo that Kenya showed to this whole group of people, the cast, the crew, everyone who was there at this event, wasn't actually Britt. What the fuck? No one did their due diligence? Not even Kenya? What the hell? So wait a minute. So Kenya ends up being investigated and then leaves the show because of this. Britt goes through all of this turmoil because of it, because, she's having, or what she thinks to be, naked pictures of herself exposed on television. Like, can you imagine? And then now, only now that the show is airing, does she find out that those pictures weren't even of her? Sue Bravo, honey. Sue them. What the actual fuck? That is the most insane thing I've ever heard. Can you imagine? I can't. I can't wait to hear where this goes. When I first heard that she was suing them, like for a second, I was just like, oh no, another Leah McSweeney. But then I read it and I'm like, girl, go off. Just go off. Okay, let's end with the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And I'm here to tell you guys that we are getting a Secret Lives of Mormon Wives reunion. And it's going to be on July 1st, and it is hosted by the one, the only, motherfucker, Nick Viall. And here's the thing about Nick Viall, right? Like, listen, I'm just jealous. At the end of the day, I'm just very jealous of Nick Viall. Does he deserve to host this reunion? I mean, he has a good relationship with all of the women, so there is something to be said for that. And I have heard him say that it's been, a goal of his to host a reunion. And I know that he has this particular admiration for Mark Wahlberg. Now, Mark L. Wahlberg, okay? Mark L. Wahlberg hosts the Temptation Island show. And Mark L. Wahlberg does it in this really beautiful way where not only does he host, he also gives advice. And he's also really there for the people. And he really cares about the contestants. And, Nick has really commended him for the way that he does that. So while I want to say that Nick is not a therapist and therefore should not be giving them advice, I mean, Mark L. Wahlberg does it and he does it quite beautifully, but I kind of don't want Nick Viall to be giving these women dating advice or any sort of advice in their lives because what the fuck does he know? I do wonder how this man ended up becoming a relationship and dating expert to begin with when he had so many failed relationships and so many failed experiences on The Bachelor. But yeah, he's going to be hosting it. Good for him. He is a good interviewer. I will give him that. It is a skill. It does take a lot to learn it. He's good at being able to, because what some people do when you question them sometimes is not necessarily answer your question specifically. They'll sort of run around it. And then, as an interviewer, like for myself, I've taken a lot of interview courses. What you're supposed to do is in a roundabout way, continue to ask the same questions almost sort of over and over again in different ways until you get the answer that you're looking for, which is what he does, right? He doesn't let people get away with not really answering the question. He always makes sure that they come back to it, or he makes them explain it more. Like, what did you mean when you said, I'll never cheat that way again? So he is definitely good at that. He does ask the tough questions, which I appreciate. But I think a big part of that also is like the networks allowing him to ask those tough questions, because other podcasters, for example, are told that they have to cut certain pieces of tea out of episodes that they've done with Bravo Lebs, for example, because that then needs to be given to Nick Viall because he's the one who's going to get to go viral or to be able to ask that question. That's just sort of what I hear on the back end. But yeah, it's going to come out on July the 1st. But apparently Demi and her husband Brett were not there. And, I know that she's not in a good place with the girls, but I really hate it when someone doesn't come to a reunion when they're sort of the person that everyone needs to reunite with, right? Like she's the one that everyone has issues with. And so for her not to be at the reunion, it sort of feels like a moot point to have a reunion. And the other weird thing is, I know for a fact that they are continuously filming. So given the fact that they're continuously filming, I mean, Ryan Bailey had some of them on his podcast when the season initially aired, and he said that there was cameras following them then. And there was that like Hulu event a couple months ago, there was cameras following them then. So because they're continuously filming currently for season 3, how do you really have a reunion when you can only talk about things up to a certain point? Like even when Jessie was on the Viall Files and she was asked about her relationship with Jordan and the way that season 2 of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives ended with Marciano saying that he was having an affair with Jessie, she's like, yeah, I can't really talk about it, and implied that that's because it's to come up in season 3. But again, if we can't talk about stuff that happened in the season because it's carrying on to season 3, then what's the point of the reunion? So, I'm not mad at it. I'm still going to watch it, obviously, but I'm just curious as to like what it's really going to be. All right, well, that's the end of the episode for today, guys. I will catch you later in the week, obviously, for the Valley After Show. We also have the Real Housewives of Miami starting this week, so that'll be part of our mini recaps on the weekend. And you know what? I just love you, BBs, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator Podcast in partnership with Hurrdat Media. You can watch full-length videos on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at the Bravo Investigator. If you enjoy the show, please leave me a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.